I mean, they do say be careful what you wish for, right? They do say be careful what you wish for. Everybody was really excited that Wit Studio was taken over as a studio for Ascendance of Bookworm, and now I think that monkey's paws come to slap us. I think we're finally seeing the ramifications for that. But no, this is funny because yesterday when the premiere of Ascendance of Bookworm Season 4 came out, I was super excited. I jumped right in. I'm watching the episode. I'm eating it up. I'm loving having Rosamine back. And then I'm like going over to make my video. I posted my video online. And then I see on social media, like it's trending. Holy crap, Ascendance of Bookworm is trending. But not for the good reasons. Not for good reasons. Yes. It seems that people looking at the OP notice that there's signs of the use of AI, something that I completely glanced over, and I guess that's a good thing, but I completely glanced over it, and that's typically because with OPs, I don't like to actually look at the OP because there's like spoilers in it, whatnot, and plus there was another thing about the OP that I was noticing, which is like this very odd change of character designs at some point, and I kind of assumed it was going to be a case of like, you know, there's two different teams working on this OP, and some had different OP art, or they just chose to do it artistically. But yeah, there was like a lot of it that was like, okay, this is anime art style, and then there's like this other style that's just very much so different, that more leans towards the actual light novel. That's sort of what I was getting there. But anyways, yes, looking at this again, yes, I noticed it. Looking at it again, yes, I finally noticed that, yeah, this looks like potentially they used AI for the backgrounds for the OP. Thankfully, I looked at the rest of the episode, and it didn't look like there was any sort of signs of things out of whack or, again, the use of AI elsewhere. But this is sort of a alarming sign for a lot of people because, again, I think a lot of people are very excited for Wit Studio to take over this project and just to see them start using AI, which, let's be honest, isn't really new, right? It isn't really new. I think Wit Studio overall has a communication problem when it comes to AI. But yeah, let's look at this first, then I'll get into like my opinions on it overall. I think in the end, a lot of people are going to be either like, I don't really give an F, and a lot of people are going to be like, oh my gosh, I hate this, and I think we need to stop this. Like, this is something that we don't want, as usual. But we'll get the usual arguments for AI, but this is my opinion. But yes, I looked through it. The early shots of the OP didn't really flag much for me. Like, you have this little shot right here where you do have that problem that AI has where it kind of feeds into itself, where you have like a stem come up and it just kind of disappears. You'll have this other stem come up here and it feeds into this other stem over here. That kind of stuff. Other than that, like, this looks gorgeous. Like, this isn't really kind of signaling me wrong. Something's wrong here. This could be just like a higher end model that's doing a better job of it. As we go along, that's when you start to see sort of the inconsistency in the art style. Because typically if something like this, where it's like a, you know, some sort of pattern or, you know, a stained glass window, you want it to be different, but you want some sort of uniform to it. But yes, as we go along, again, more signs of where the AI just doesn't know what it wants to do. It's just building something and then it realizes, I don't know where this wants to go, and it has no rhyme or reason to it. You'll see this a lot, especially with the older models of AI, with hair. I absolutely hate seeing AI anime art and the hair just it goes random locations and it just becomes something else. You'll see hair come out and it just like turns into a cloth. It turns into an arm. It turns into a leg. Just hair just goes a direction and eventually reaches something, and then the AI goes, that's good. These two things met something. They became something. We're good. That's an AI thing. But yes, as we go further, I think this is where we see the big ones. This, I think, is probably, there's two that I think are probably the biggest signs of the AI use. This one and this one. Looking at this one, I'm mixed on this. This is obviously probably the worst of it. This looks gross. This looks absolutely gross. Blech. Blech. Again, it's only up there for like maybe like a second or two, but it's bleh. Now I will say, and it's similar with the next one, I will say there's a lot of signs here that this might not be necessarily AI, but actually resampling with upscaling. What I mean by that is that when you have a very small image, and it's obviously going to be pixelated if you get it bigger, like if you enlarge that, you rescale it up. If you were to blow that up, you're going to see the jaggedness of the actual pixels because you're just making the pixels bigger. What they do with, like, you know, upscaling and resampling is that you're telling the machine based on a certain model to try to put the pieces in between. Try to make it smooth out those pixels and make it into lines and whatnot and fill in the gap. Try to figure it out. It's early models like AI type of stuff here. Just things that are taught on things to do a proper job of filling in the blanks. This shows signs of that. This sort of like cloudiness, the jaggedness to the lines and stuff, how like sloppy it looks. How very sloppy and very kind of blurry and thick the lines are. It gives me a feel of something that was resampled, scaled up and resampled, that they had some very small pattern and they blew it up. And that's what they got here. That's sort of what I'm getting here. It does look very gross AI as well. I'm not going to put it past them at all. This does kind of give me those hints. But again, like with this one, similar situation. I feel like this could just be a very small image resampled to be bigger. A lot of this gives me those hints where this was probably some small little pattern here, and they blew it up, and the resampling just kind of went, I think this is it. I think this is what it is. Because I get a lot of this stuff too whenever I do that, where it just kind of bleeds into each other like this. Not that it's going into each other like I was saying earlier with the AI, but that they just kind of overlap each other, and it just kind of, it bleeds in because the pixels themselves can't decide which one to go with. So that's just my opinion as somebody that has done quite a bit of Photoshop, that I get a feeling of like resampling and rescaling with this stuff. But yes, it does look like, for sure, a lot of signs of AI slop, which again, I'm not surprised by. I'm not honestly surprised by any of this. It's a be careful what you wish for situation where you want Wit Studio to work on this. You think Attack on Titan, but again, they still have budgets. It's still technically Ascendance of Bookworm. It's not, a massive shonen series, even though Ascendance of Bookworm is massively popular. The novel series is extremely successful. It's not for anime to the viewership of something like Attack on Titan or Soul Leveling or something like that. It's not going to get those budgets. And I wasn't expecting that. I think when everybody was getting super excited for Wit Studio taking over, I got a little bit of feel there too. Like, holy crap, because the novel's so popular, they're trying to give it some proper care, some proper love with the budgeting and whatnot. I still had like a hesitation there of like, but it's still Ascendance of Bookworm. We see that with the first episode. It's not blowing me away. Like, it's like, holy crap, crazy animation, crazy directing, like camera angles, like constantly changing. It's just like, it's a show. It's a show. And that's really kind of, again, what I was expecting. I think the problem that overall that I'm having personally is that I think there's a messaging problem with Wit Studio. Like, they can't decide if they want to be pro AI or not. This obviously gives a sign that there's somebody working somewhere in potentially with Wit Studio or somebody outside. I think I've seen some people saying this was outsourced somewhere else, and potentially those people could have used AI for the backgrounds. Either way, I think there's a messaging problem here when you have situations like this, and this is stuff that would probably be remedied by them having a clause in their agreements with whoever they're working with. You cannot use AI. If you do, we're going to burn you over the coals, something like that. But you have situations where you have like, Joji Wada, and he's talking about, the upcoming One Piece remake. And over there, they're asking about AI, and he's legit saying AI is a threat. It's a threat. They carry out the responsibility of protecting the creators, artists, animators, and others. And many legal issues are still unresolved. So we are watching these changes carefully to understand the future impact on the industry. He's already saying we got to protect our creators, what they create. Now, with his statements there, it's not really necessarily saying we're not using AI. He's more saying it's a threat to our creators, like stealing their ideas. It's not necessarily saying that we don't want to use it. It's saying that we want it to be used for our gain, not for other people's gain. That's really what he's saying there. And yes, that sort of does check with the fact that The Boy and the Dog, a Wit Studio project, was hailed as being using AI. Like, they legit embraced it with The Boy and the Dog. They wanted it to be broadcast. We're using AI. Look at us. Look at our backgrounds. It's all AI. Isn't this cool? Isn't this creative? Like, they embraced it. Like, it's legit still in the freaking synopsis here. It's like, we're not going to do our jobs. Isn't it great? It's weird. They have a very mixed messaging coming out of Wit Studio, and I think in the end it's going to be one of those things where I think this should be expected going forward, that you're going to have the use of AI for little jobs like this. Now, I do really like to push back on a lot of people's opinion here where it's like, but it's just backgrounds. I didn't even notice it. Again, I said I didn't notice it. I do want to push back on a lot of that stuff because I think that's sort of a slippery slope to go down, because you see this and you go, I didn't even see this for like a second on the screen. It's just some twirlies and whatnot. I don't care. I really don't care. Because it starts with something like this and then ends up being everything, and then you lose a lot of like very beautiful background artists. And that's sort of the same thing that happened with mecha design. Honestly, like, we had for the longest time CGI mecha was coming out, and there was a lot of people, including myself, that were pushing back against CGI because it was like, look at the 2D drawn mecha art that we had back in the day. This stuff looked incredible. The stuff that they hand drew, mechas they hand drew, were phenomenal. And then now we have just a bunch of generic robots in CGI. and there's no like creativity to them. They're very simple designs because you want the rig itself for the CGI model not to clip on itself or whatever. And then what do you start seeing in the credits for things is the list of mechanical designers, they started shrinking. We got to the point now where there's like a handful of mechanical designers. There's not much left because they're all getting out of the business because it's being replaced. Their jobs are being replaced by CGI models instead. That's a sad reality. And you're going to start seeing that with the background artists. I never really thought about it before, but that's probably the first place you'll start to see a lot of AI being used is background art. And you're going to see a lot of the background artists start to shrink, and they're going to be like pretty much non-existent anymore. And that sucks because there's some very beautiful backgrounds. Now, granted, there's a lot of really simple and crap backgrounds, but when you look at something like, City Animation, there's a significant difference in the art and the artistry that comes from background artists. So, but anyways, that's the whole ordeal right now that's happening with Ascendance of Bookworm. It's unfortunate, but I'm assuming this will probably be fixed. Hopefully get fixed. This might be one of those new age elements about animation where they'll have, certain areas get, AI models thrown into it just to kind of fill in the gaps. And then hopefully by the time the Blu-ray comes out, they'll fix it. They'll have like the advertisements for the Blu-ray says, we fixed the AI backgrounds right here. Something like that. But we'll see. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you found it informative. If you did, hit the like button below. If you like this content and you want to support channel more, become a member. Until next time, take care.